Good morning, Namaste. Happy Father's Day. This is Something's Calling Me. Something's calling me. Something's calling me. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Feels like I'm walking on marbles. Can't still the earth beneath my feet. And is my head in the clouds, my naked legs left dangling. I can feel my heart begin to pound. And everybody said, something's calling me. Something's calling me. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Long dark night, my soul it wanders. Can't see the light that moves in me. If God is everything and everywhere that I belong, Spirit gently wakes me from my sleep. Oh Lord, oh Lord, pull me deeper than I've ever been before. Oh Lord, oh Lord, pull me deeper than I've ever been before. Oh Lord, I know I'm not the only one to live inside these blues. Oh Lord, oh Lord, I surrender my life to you. Oh Lord, oh Lord, I give my life to you. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Compassion's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. My faith keeps calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Peace is calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. God is calling me, and I'm grateful like I've never been before.
So beautiful. Thank you, Kong.
Thank you.
You sing Jamie Lula beautifully.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, good morning, Namaste. My name's Valerie Day. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a practitioner here, and I'm going to be leading our meditation this morning. Welcome to our morning meditation practice. And the meditation that I'm going to lead you through this morning is a guided meditation from Tara Brach. And she's the author of Radical Compassion, which is our book of the month this month. And she calls this meditation a light rain of self-compassion. And we're going to use the process that she calls RAIN, and that stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. And so during this guided meditation, we'll explore each of those avenues. So please come sitting comfortably. Find a posture that lets you be at ease, yet also awake and alert. And if you're someone who likes to meditate with music, just turn on some nice soft music in the background to further support you. And just allow yourself, you might want to close your eyes, and scanning and sensing your life and what might want healing attention right now. Perhaps somewhere that you've turned against yourself, somewhere that you've been judging or blaming yourself, somewhere where you're having a hard time, wherever you're feeling some difficulty in your life. Bring it close in now so that you can sense the situation. Or maybe it's something you're anticipating is going to happen. Just with some bravery, go close into that situation and sense what is most disturbing. What way you feel like you've been failing or something's going to go wrong. With the R of rain, let mindfulness recognize whatever is predominant, whatever emotion or mood is strongest. It might be blame or judgment or fear or anxiety. It might be anger or irritation. With a mental whisper, just name whatever you're most aware of right now. Recognize it. With the A, allow. Really let it be here. This again takes some courage to just pause with it. Let it belong like a wave in the ocean. It's okay. Just let it be here. Not to add any judgment, not to try to fix it or ignore it. Let it be. With the I of rain, a simple investigating into the body. Check your throat, your chest, your belly. Gently place your hand wherever you feel the most agitation or the most emotion. Let the touch help you to be with and breathe with what is right here. you might sense what you are believing. What is going to go wrong? What is wrong with you? Give deep attention to where the belief lies in your body. Give deep attention to where the belief lives in your body. Often it's the throat or the chest or the belly. Again, it takes courage. But directly contact that. Sense it as a vulnerable place inside you that you are willingly paying attention to right now. The feeling of failure, of fear, perhaps of isolation, sadness, anger. You might sense the most vulnerable part of this experience, where that vulnerability is strongest. Then asking, what does this place need? What is the flavor of nurturing it most needs? Is it acceptance? Forgiveness? Understanding? Love? A compassionate embrace? Belonging? As you attend to this place, sense the witness right now. The most compassionate place in your being, and how that awake part of you can offer something right now. Some kindness to this place of vulnerability. Let your touch now really be tender to communicate care. Let there be some message to this place, some reminder that you can trust your goodness. Trust you belong to love, that truly it is okay. See if you can let in the nurturing. That is sometimes the most challenging of all. Just to sense that love, light, warmth is coming into you from perhaps your own awake heart. If it is easier to sense the message of love coming from a being you trust, a spiritual figure, a healer, a teacher, a grandmother, a therapist, a friend, that is okay too. Just let it in. And then taking some moments to sense the presence that is right here. To notice the shift, whether it is small or large, from the sense of self when you started, the failing self or the anxious self, to some more degree of presence and compassion, to the heart space that is there. And know that this opening into heart space, this loving presence, is more the truth of who you are than any story of self. Let that knowing deepen your trust in your basic goodness. From the teachings of an Indian master Babaji, break your heart no longer. Each time you judge yourself, you break your heart. You pull away from the love that is the wellspring of your being. Now the time has come, your time, to live and to trust the goodness that you are. There is no evil. There is no wrong in you. Your true essence is pure awareness, aliveness, and love. Let no one, no thing, no idea obscure this truth. If one comes, forgive it for its unknowing. Do not fight it. Just let it go and breathe into the goodness that you are. So I just invite you to take a deep breath as we bring our meditation time to a close. Maybe move your body around, give yourself a hug, maybe touch your shoulders. Just deeply connect with yourself as we move into opening up our service. So thank you for joining me for our meditation time. Welcome back. There is a lot going on this weekend. For those of you that just joined us, I'm Valerie Day. I'm a practitioner here at Namaste, and happy Father's Day. And yesterday was a new moon and summer solstice and the solar eclipse, and just lots of energy going on. The new moon, we're planting seeds of what we want for this next moon cycle. And this moon cycle, it's in Cancer, and it's comforting, compassionate, and nurturing. It knows how to create safe spaces, the womb, the sanctuary, home. It communicates through emotions. It is intuitive, creative, and sensitive to the child within. Cancer is the archetypal mother. And Friday was Juneteenth, and Bobby will talk a little bit about that. But just I want to share a few things before I open us with prayer. Today, this month's theme is the power in mindfulness. And today, Reverend Bobby's going to be talking to us about mindful speech. And what I'd like to talk to you about in the realm of mindful speech is how do we speak to ourselves, and coupled with that, the topic of boundaries. And I don't know about any of you out there, raise your virtual hand if you struggle with setting boundaries. And I do, I have intentions, and this is how I'm going to do it. And then, I don't honor myself. And I was having a conversation with my brother last night, and he was the compassionate observer. And what I witnessed was, and this is what we do sometimes, we get into this triangle and we victim, villain, and hero. And you think that those are three different people, but sometimes we are the victim, villain, and hero ourselves. So as we're contemplating this topic of mindful speech, I invite us to look at how are we mindfully speaking to ourselves. Because I was, berating myself and judging myself and thinking I should have done it different, and then also being the hero, like telling myself it's okay, and just kind of all of those things. It's just this. And so when we remove ourselves from that, we're in the place that this guided meditation took us of the I am, that I am, that I am. So just that's my little inquiry for you is just to look at how you're speaking to yourself, and being gentle and loving and compassionate and kind. And then one last little share before we open with prayer. Since it's Father's Day, I just wanted to share a quick little story about my dad. This is my second Father's Day without my papa. He passed last February 26th, and miss him terribly. And so many years ago, I had friends that were giving me a dining room table for free. And so my dad and my brother and I were driving down with like a truck to go pick it up. And, my brother and I were fighting as siblings do about something, who knows what it was. And, we were doing our little fighty thing. And, my dad in his fatherly wisdom, asked the question, like, what would love do? That's such a beautiful and deep question. What would love do? And so, in honor of my father, I leave you with that question to, whenever you're in a difficult situation, whatever it might be, if it's with yourself or somebody else, is just, to ask, what would love do? And so with that, let us pray. So we just already know that everything that has taken place before this moment is a prayer. We are a prayer. Our life is a prayer. And so we just surrender to the I am, that I am, that I am, resting in the oneness and wholeness of spirit that lives its life through me, through Bobby, through every member of this congregation, through Kong, through Chris. And so I know that this service unfolds with joy, with grace, with depth, and that spirit speaks and sings through Bobby and Chris and Kong with beautiful joy and grace, and that this message falls upon open hearts, and that each person receives what it is they need to receive this day, the unique message of spirit that is here just for them, that they feel that this service was created just for them, and that we opened up their journals and that know what's going on, because it's the I am, that I am, that I am, that is operating right here and right now. So I give thanks for the beauty, for the joy, for the grace, for the infinite intelligence that is Reverend Bobby, that is Kong, that is our congregation, that is Chris, that is Tori. So I just release this prayer to the action of the law, knowing it's complete, knowing it's done, saying, so it is, and so I let it be. Amen.
Thank you, Valerie. Morning, Namaste. It's beautiful to see you. Just want to send my love to all of you. And thanks for sharing that, Val. It's also my first Father's Day without my father here, but I know he'd be watching right now if he could, and I guess maybe I'd like to think that he is. Take all of your wasted honor, every little past frustration. Take all of your so-called problems, better put them in quotation. Say what you need to say, say what you need to say, say what you need to say, say what you need to say. Walking like a one-man army, fighting with the shadows in your head, living on the same old moment, knowing you'll be better instead. If you could only say what you need to say, say what you need to say, say what you need to say, say what you need to say. Have no fear for giving in, have no fear for giving all of it. You better know that in the end, it's better to say too much than never to say what you need to say again. Even if your hands are shaking and your faith is broken, even as the eyes are closing, but with the heart wide open, say what you need to say. 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 Thank you.
Good morning, Namaste, and good morning, Kong.
Morning, Chris.
I'll tell you what I need to say. I need to say great gratitude to you, my friend, for the many gifts that you bring to our community. I'm so, so grateful for you and sending you love on this day.
Thank you so much. And back at you and all of Namaste, really. I love you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Kong. Good morning again, Namaste. And the other thing I have to say on this special day is, hi, Dad. Happy Father's Day. I love you very much. And I look forward to seeing you soon. So Namaste, and all who are joining us for the first time, you know that this is our time that we come together and we anchor into the words that we built together as a community. So together, please read with me our vision statement of Namaste, the who we are statement. I honor the place in you in which the entire universe dwells. I honor the place in you which is love, truth, light, and peace. When you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, we recognize that we are one. Namaste. And how do we do that? How do we do this anchoring into the truth of who we are and seeing it in one another? This is our mission and vision statement as a community, our how statement of how we bring this into the world. So please repeat with me also this statement. I learn practical science of mind tools and practice in a loving, connective, and vibrant community to reveal my power and change my life. And you could see from the little diagram up on the slide, how we do this is we awaken, we realize this deep truth, we transform through this deep truth and these learnings, and we repeat over and over and over again. And as a community, as we realize this, our power statement, we are a thriving, dynamic, spiritual community. And our hashtags, we are Namaste, and this stuff works. Now, as we move into our announcements, a spiritual practice that is deep in the roots of Namaste, our choir, under the direction of Alan Arnett, who was the choir director at Namaste from 2002 to 2004, and welcome back, Alan. Please email if you're interested in joining the choir and participating in choir rehearsals, which are weekly on Thursdays at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Please email Marilee or Julie Bathke. And this information is also available on our website. And next Tuesday, June 23rd, join us by Zoom for a virtual town hall meeting. We'll have an update from our Building Possibilities team and so much more. This is an exciting time of growth and transition for our community. Please join us and join in with us as a community as we talk about the future buildings and the options for Namaste. And finally, I'm deeply grateful to our practitioners who provide a way for us to continue to connect, I think for almost 2 years now. They've been providing a daily practice in the mornings at 7 a.m. And you can dial in and have prayer and a time of connection and deep, deep connection with others. You could join this by Zoom, or you can join by calling in. And this is a time when we need to continue connection and receiving from one another and holding one another as we move into this deep time of caring and compassion. And so please join our practitioners daily at 7 a.m.
Good morning, Namaste, and thank you, Chris, for the announcements and the reminder of who we are as a community. It's always a wonderful reminder to have. Today's service, the theme about the service is mindfulness in our speech. And before I bring Kong back up here, one of the songs he just sang is Say What You Mean to Say. And we're really talking today about what we say, being mindful in that speech, and really knowing that where it starts is what we think and what we believe. So before we get on with the talk and the music that Kong is about to share, I wanted to bring up what was happening on Friday. So Friday was Juneteenth. And for those that may not be quite as familiar with what Juneteenth is, it dates back to 1865 on June 19th, when actually all the states were notified of the Emancipation Proclamation. It's the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery. And even though it is not a nationally celebrated, there are states that actually have it as a holiday, or I should say an honoring for that day. What happened that day was Major General Gordon Granger landed in Galveston, Texas, and he let the slave owners and the slaves know that indeed the Emancipation Proclamation had been announced 2 years prior. It took 2 years for that news to be delivered to those that were held in slavery in Texas. There's varying theories around it, whether it was a messenger that was killed on the way back in 1865, or whether the slave owners delayed 2 years so they could have 2 more years of profit in which they could enjoy. Whatever it was, any or all could be true or untrue. But it's important to remember that it took 2 years. And we continue today, when you look at the protests that are happening that are so important to bring to presence, to bring to visibility the inequity that does exist in many places for our African American family members. So I wanted to read what was read to the those that were enslaved and those that owned slaves back in Galveston on that day. And this was what was read by Major General Gordon Granger. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States that all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. And the connection there heretofore existing between them becomes that between employer and hired labor. So much has changed, and yet there is so much yet to be done. So let us just honor today, besides Father's Day, that Juneteenth was this last week, and let us always remember what has happened so that we can know how to bring about change today. So with that, I'm going to bring Kong up, and we're going to get started with our service. One last little piece of information I forgot to mention was that the last person to live that was freed from slavery, he died in May 31st, 1965. And his name was Sylvester McGee. So that wasn't that long ago. And I think it's important to remember this as we go forward. So Kong, let's open up this day with mindfulness in our speech, with Spirit is in this place.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Bobby.
We have come together as family. We have come here as we are. We have come with arms wide open. We have gathered here in love. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Raise the roof with shouts of praise, spirits in this place. We sing in celebration. We sing with words of praise. We affirm all life as sacred. We declare that peace is here. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Raise the roof with shouts of praise. Spirits in this place. Spirits in this place. One more time, sing along where we are. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Spirit is in this, Spirit is in this place. Raise the roof with shouts of praise. Woo! Spirits in this place.
Oh, thank you, Kong. Blessed morning. If any of you have noticed, I'm in a different location. And the first person that can guess where I'm at gets a special prize. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint now. So for those of you that are wondering where I'm at, I've just given you a slight hint. Now there's a little bit of a delay right now. So for those of you that are seeing it, you're seeing it about 12 seconds after I'm done. Oh my gosh, Debbie Ann Vokes was the first person to throw up there Chris Schreiber's house. So today I'm actually doing virtual service from our board president's backyard. And it's a little test we're doing today because next Sunday I'm going to be in another undisclosed place to which I'm going to give you a chance to guess what that is. Now, Debbie Ann, you've won a prize, but I can't really tell you what the prize is yet because I don't really know what it is yet. But when I figure it out, Chris is going to help me deliver that prize because Chris is standing or sitting right over here right now. So I'm really excited because I got to get out of my office and actually do a service somewhere else. And it was really fun, and it feels a little inspiring for the day just to be somewhere different. And that's a little challenging right now because I was driving to church this morning, and big billboard says, be safe and stay home. And I actually believe it's so important for us to stay safe right now and to make sure that we're practicing social distancing, which is why I'm outside. So part of this is to stand in truth, but also not to be fearful at the same time. And so it's a really interesting kind of place to be. There's a paradox in this. And Desiree McDonald, I agree with you. What a brilliant idea. I'm pretty excited to be here. So if you hear a few things, like you might hear a plane fly over, and you might hear Chris do something like, I don't know, something inappropriate, I'm not sure, but it could happen. But whatever that is, I'm just grateful to be here today with you. Namaste. So today my talk, I'm going to start with a little story, and this is mindful speech. And in the mid-1950s, there was a highway that was being built in Bangkok. And at the time, the route that had been designed was going right through an ancient temple. And there was this beautiful clay Buddha that had to be moved. And so the monks were forced to relocate this beautiful Buddha. It was 12 feet tall. It was fashioned out of what was believed to be mud plaster. It was carefully painted and decorated with bits of colored glass, but it had been neglected, and this temple that had been abandoned was considered at the time to be a minor temple, but still a holy place. The Buddha, although it was beautiful, was considered to be valueless, and it had sat there for over 100 years. And what was interesting about this is they were moving it, they had to bring a crane in, and as they were lifting it, all of a sudden, all the way across the front of it and the back of it, there was a crack that happened. And the monks, terrified, they put the Buddha back down on the ground. There was one of the monks that laid there overnight, and as he laid there overnight, he saw something through the moonlight when it had shone right on the crack. There was something shiny underneath that plaster. And he started to chip away. And the next day, the rest of the monks came forward and they all started to chip away on this Buddha. As they removed the mud from the cracking statue, underneath the painted mud was the gleam of gold. Now I'm going to ask Tori to go ahead, and she doesn't know this, but I'm going to ask her to bring up Remembering the Gold slide for me. What was underneath that plaster was solid gold. It had been covered up for so long that they didn't even remember. And it took some discovery in old records to identify that they had covered it with plaster all those years ago to protect it from armies that were constantly invading the area. And in order to protect it, they covered it with plaster. And then they forgot over the generations that indeed this Buddha, which you can see the picture, that is the actual Buddha that was covered with that plaster. Tara Brach, in the Book of the Month, Radical Compassion, says, our suffering comes when we identify with our protective coating and forget the loving awareness that is intrinsic to our being. So often we are so caught up in the stream of conditions of everyday living that we don't believe or we don't remember the truth of who we are. We look at the conditions and the circumstances around us, and we think that that is the truth. And what's really interesting about that is it's not that the conditions are true, because conditions are real. It's what we think about those conditions that we think is the truth. In that, we speak from that place of false belief. We speak words about ourselves. We speak words about each other. We speak words about the news. We speak words about our president. We speak nudes about other politicians that we may or may not agree with. We talk about people as if they're evil. We talk about people as if they have no value sometimes. And in many cases, when you even think about the story of Juneteenth, the slaves had been freed, but because the words had not been spoken, there was no power associated with that freedom until those words had been spoken, the truth. We forget that our words have power. We forget they have power over our lives, and we forget that the words we speak have power in changing our world. So I'm going to ask you this. Do you believe that your words have power? And go ahead and comment in the section, do I believe my words have power? And if I do believe that my words have power, what words am I giving power to? Ernest Holmes, go ahead, Tori, pick up that next slide. Ernest Holmes said that according to the law of cause and effect, fear brings us to the condition that faith could dissipate. One more slide, Tori. Thank you. So with love and law being part of that triune nature that is God, love associated with person, law associated as a principle. Now, how can we, in essence, apply those things to specifically how we engage in our world? Love is a feeling that we have, and anything not associated with love, which might be fear. So typically, we often know that our feelings come either from love or fear. And from there, the law responds in force, the law being that force. So if I use the words that I speak from a place, if I use words that come from that place of fear, then I am contributing more and more fear into my world. Isn't that interesting? Right now, we have two major events happening across the world. We have COVID-19, and we have these protests that are happening that are drumming up all sorts of questions and all sorts of feelings for everyone. COVID, which it's reasonable to have fear around COVID. We know that many folks are contracting the disease, and a number of those are dying from it or very, very sick. So there's reason to be afraid of it in some sense. But what am I speaking about it with respect to what I should be afraid in it? And that is something each one of us must consider. There is a thought out there with respect to protests that there's something to be afraid of because there may be looting happening at the time, which is not associated with those protests. But truly, in that sense, I would believe that it's all connected because it's all, in essence, coming from inequality within our global, within the planet. If we want to bring about greater love, we first need to start with ourselves. We first must start with what we think and say about ourselves. And we also must translate that or mirror that back, in a sense, to what we also think about others. Tori, bring up that next slide. The word we speak is law. It is power. It knows itself to be what it is, and the word is flesh. What that means is whatever we speak can come into form, flesh being form. It is important for us to recognize that the power of our words can change the situation around us, the situation within myself. We speak, the words we choose, we speak of what we believe. It comes from that place of belief, what we speak of ourselves. And so I'll ask you this question is, do I speak kind words, loving words about myself? Do I say things about myself that limit who I am, that reduce the power of really what I am and what I can be? Do I repeat things that I think others may think of me that may or may not be true? Do I speak of myself of anything less than love, anything less than precious, anything less than beautiful? There is a unifying and coordinating will in the universe, and its nature is love and goodness. Ernest Holmes said that. And that is the truth of who we are. And from that very power, we are formed. And from that very power, we breathe each breath. And from that very power, we can choose to express ourselves in the best and most loving light, or not. Jesus, the master teacher, who was a great example, he believed that we are inseparable from God, eternal with God, forever in God. He was conscious of his own divinity. He was also humble as he contemplated the infinite life that existed around him as himself, as the things that he chose, as others that operated around him. It was even in that moment in his death in which he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He also spoke out and cried to God, asking why he had been forsaken, which he demonstrated both the human side of us as well as the divine side of us within that one expression of who he was. He remembered who he was. What would my life feel like if I believed that I am one with God? What would my life feel like or be if I believed that I was one with God? For me, I would probably take a lot more risk in some places in my life that I don't necessarily, or I might be more fearful in. I might speak more truth in times when I'm afraid. I would remember that. So what is the way of me knowing that I'm one with God? And I'm going to ask you to comment over this section to these questions, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. What is the way of me knowing that I'm one with God? What we've been talking about this entire month is the practice of mindfulness, the practice of being in presence, the practice of remembering who we are. And the way we do that is to practice mindfulness. And there's different ways of doing that. There's different ways of doing that. I see Desiree McDonald saying silence, and that is the way, that is the spiritual practice, by listening, so that we recognize and see the thoughts that are racing through our heads or moving through our heads, our minds, in which we think things that are not true about ourselves. If I knew that I was one with God, what would I speak about myself and about others? If I knew within me that I am one with God, how would I speak of myself and how would I speak of others? The book of the month is an invitation. This radical compassion, which is to start with ourselves, is the invitation to widen our lens. And it's through this practice of mindfulness. What's interesting about widening the lens is it also allows us to narrow our focus on our self-awareness, because we recognize that we are not the center of the universe. Our own mind has evolved and continues to evolve, and it gives us the capacity to care and know we care. Meditation actually activates the parts of the brain that correlate with this awareness of care, of remembering to care and to have that compassion and love, as Julie Guénaud says. We see, or we become aware of our unconscious fears and limiting beliefs. We all can recognize our unmet needs. And what happens is when our needs are unmet, we raise armor up to protect ourselves because we think we need to be protected. So maybe we speak in ways to protect ourselves. Maybe we think of things to protect ourselves. Maybe we make choices from that to protect ourselves. I love Joyce Levinson saying that if she knew she was one with God, I would speak of love and compassion to myself and to all. That is exactly what we would do. We would see how we are confined. We have confined and obscured ourselves with that ego covering, just like the Buddha. We have done that as a practice every time that we speak a word that is not true about who we are. So in this month's book, I just invite you, if you haven't picked it up, some of you already have, because I know there was this book study out there some time ago. There's a really great practice in there that I've been engaging in this month, and it's called RAIN. And Tori, would you put that slide up for us? RAIN allows a practice that I think is really a really important practice, and I've actually been practicing that as I have found myself in situations where I have been troubled by something, and it's just my own stuff, not necessarily what anyone else. It may be something that somebody said that triggered something in me, but I've allowed myself to practice this, which is RAIN, which is an acronym for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. Valerie mentioned it in her meditation. To recognize what is happening, not necessarily what is happening on the outside of me, but what is happening on the inside of me. What is this reaction that I'm having? Allowing it is to allow the experience to be there just as it is, to allow myself to be in this experience of being almost the observer of what is happening, but let myself feel it. Now, our Western culture, we don't like feelings. Do we, Chris? No, we don't. We don't like feelings because we've been taught that feelings aren't places that we should go. We should only feel kind of this very narrow band of tolerance, I would say. But if we can actually experience the feeling, we would find that underneath it is an old story. That's when we investigate it with interest and care. Now that's really important, to investigate with interest and care. Because if we investigate it with judgment and criticism about ourselves, then there's no way I can drop into nurturing. And when I was reading the book of radical compassion, there was this moment. There are times in my life when I am so distraught that I couldn't find rain if you paid me. But it doesn't mean I have to stay there. I always say that. You don't have to buy real estate in that place. You can allow yourself to feel it. And when you settle down a little bit, then you can allow this process to truly work its power. Once I've investigated what the story is underneath it, then I can give myself that self-compassion. And that self-compassion through this process is where that healing happens. As we do this process of rain, I get to find that there's this wounded, frightened, hurting place within me that needs this, that needs me to see itself, that needs me to feel it, that even needs me to tell the story that I'm feeling. We do that when we meet with a practitioner, because then I can give myself that message of reassurance, reminding myself that the situation is happening is not one that's unique, because I'm telling the same story over and over and over, because I've so well practiced it. Remembering who I am is forgetting that something's wrong with me. That's what happens. So I get to pause and allow silence through this process. I get to observe myself and others and listen at a deeper level. Our words are precious, so it's important to remember that each word we speak comes from an old story if it's one that comes from fear. And when we remember who we are, we're speaking from love. We can bring a gentle rain to remove the thick covering of who we believe we are and others are. So let us remember the power of our words. Let us remember that words matter. So let me just offer this prayer today. Let me just offer this prayer of recognition. Knowing right here and right now, I am in such gratitude for feeling God in me, as me, through me, and all around me. In this beautiful backyard in which our beloved board president has shared with me today, I recognize God in the nature represented in everything, in form, but also within that feeling, that electrifying feeling that there is a power greater than me that includes me. I know that I am one with it. And I know that this home and Chris is one with it. I know that our entire board is one with it, our practitioners in the community that is Namaste. I am so grateful to affirm that today we speak with mindfulness. We remember that. We speak it as we go through our week. And even though things might be troubling, let us pause before we speak. Let us pause and remember that, yes, let us tell our story with the intention to heal it, not to continue it. I am grateful for this time to share with this community, knowing that it is good and very good, and I bless it. And with that, I let go and I let God. And so it is. Amen. So namaste. It is our time of conscious giving. So I'm going to ask Tori to just keep Kong up here because he's already here and he's just too lovely to drop back down. If you have felt benefited spiritually by what Namaste has given you, so I just ask you to take that gift, whether you've given it already or you're about to give it, which you have the option of giving it on Give Plus or with the PayPal link or with Venmo on your phone. Let us just take that gift and remember that it not just affords us the opportunity to provide what you see here today, but every opportunity that is Namaste. It feeds this community, so it makes a difference. And I am so grateful to be able to get to do that. And I know that I speak for this community in that blessing for this offering, that whatever I give today affords that and is expansive. So as we move through the next few weeks and some of the choices and opportunities that we have, I bless those, including by this offering. And I just thank God. And so it is. Amen. So we're going to do our benediction. And I'm just going to invite you to read it with me. And, you know, Chris is with me here today. So Chris is going to read it with me. The power within me is blessing all creation and is forever healing all with whom I come in contact. The power within me is God, spirit, consciousness, presence, and it must bless, help, and heal all who come near it. Silently the work goes on, and silently all are being supported by this inner power that is operating through and as me. I give thanks that this power within is silently blessing and supporting everyone to whom my thought reaches. And so it is. Thank you, Chris.
So it is.
Thank you, Kong. That prayer is a slightly altered version of a prayer that is in the Science of Mind book. Ernest Holmes wrote it, and it's just been updated enough for our time. I'm just really grateful to get to be here today. I want to thank a few people before we go into this beautiful song, and that is, I want to thank Kong. Thank you, Kong, for being so amazing today, and I know Miguel is with you. Thank you, Miguel. Tori, for being our director today. She is amazing. Tori, just pop yourself up here because, you know, we get to do that. There is Tori. Let's just thank Tori for being amazing today. I want to thank Valerie, our practitioners, Deborah for praying us in today, for our board of trustees, and for the community that is Namaste. And thank you for joining us. Go ahead, Kong, and let us enjoy the closing Namaste song.
Beautiful song. I am the song, you are the melody, I am the voice of harmony, I am the heart of all eternity, I am Namaste, I am the color of diversity, I am the people remembering to be free, I am the love of all eternity, I am Namaste, I am, I am, I am. I am the way, I am, I am, I am, I am the way, I am, I am, I am, Namaste. Yes, I am.
Thank you, Namaste. Have a blessed and safe week. We will see you Tuesday night at the town hall. Please make sure you're going to be there. We're going to talk about the building and all the wonderful things happening. And as our beloved Ray Bradford says, we are Namaste. Have a great week.